Welcome to the LumiCast, your premier gateway to the universe of limitless photo editing. Dive into the galaxy of Luminar software and the dynamic world of AI photo editing. Join us weekly for a burst of creativity and the drive to transform your photos with confidence and skill. Broadcasting directly from Clever Photographer headquarters, it's time to welcome your hosts, Jakub and Holly Linton.
Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of LumiCast, your favorite podcast where we're talking about photography, photo editing, and the one software we love the most, Luminar Neo. Anyway, if you've never been here before, my name is Jakub Bors. I'm landscape photographer, photography educator, and next to me is my very good friend, Holly Linton. Hello, Holly.
Hi, Jakub. How are you today?
I am very, very good. I'm really excited for today's episode. What are we going to talk about?
Today, we're talking about photography books. And in particular, we've each picked 5 books that have been an important part of our photography journey. So we don't know what book the other person has. So I'll be curious to see if we share any of the same ones. So let's get right into it, shall we?
Definitely. Well, I think you should start first. What are you going to have? What do you have on your list?
Okay. The first book that I have, which I think is important to all photographers, would be to get a book about your actual camera. So I have David Bush's, I had the Canon SD Mark II book, because that's the camera I used for the last several years. And I just ordered his RC Mark II book yesterday. I had been waiting to order it because, as you know, I don't want to pay full price. And it was full price forever on Amazon. And I looked yesterday because I knew we were doing this topic and the price was slashed. So I have that book coming in the next couple of days. But I think just in addition to your camera manual that nobody probably really reads. It doesn't even come with your camera anymore. They just kind of tell you to download it. I do have my camera manual downloaded on my computer and my phone, but I like having this big textbook for learning everything about my camera that I can. So that would be the first book that I have to share with you. And I would encourage everyone to just kind of find a nice book about their own camera and sit and read every single thing that there is to learn.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea. I never thought about that. You're right. Everybody should get a book about their camera. Now, additional question to that. Book like this, is it something that you actually read from start to the end, or do you just kind of go in and out when you're looking for something specific?
Well, obviously you can, because the great table of contents could just bring you to a specific thing you want to look up. But I know with my 6D Mark II, I did read it from cover to cover.
Great.
It's like one of the few books I can tolerate reading cover to cover because I'm so interested in it versus like a regular, fictional story. I don't have the reading comprehension for that. But yeah, you could definitely obviously go I just want to learn, about a certain function in the menu or something. But I like being able to read it from cover to cover first. And then highlight anything that's important to you. And
just out of curiosity, would you know how long it took you to read it?
Probably
a few weeks, a few months.
I don't know, maybe a couple of weeks. I haven't read the new one yet because it's not here, but maybe I should document how long that takes me.
Definitely. I'm very much looking forward to know how long it takes to read such a book. Anyway, okay. On that note, moving to my books then. So I also pick 5 books, as Holly mentioned, and I try to kind of pick up different sorts of genre. Well, it's all about photography, but just different styles, because I wanted to showcase that there are different kind of photography books. I think quite often people think that photography book is just this boring A to Z of photography, which goes through what is exposure and what is focus and so on. But it can be much more than that. So my first book, following actually Holly's idea, who say that you should get a book about your camera. My first book is called the iPhone Photography Book. Same idea. So again, it's about how to get the most out of your mobile photography, in this case, iPhone photography. But actually, after looking at a few of the subjects, you notice that you can totally use this book for other mobile phones. It doesn't need to be iPhone. There is lots of ideas and techniques that can be applied to any Android or whatever. It's written by Scott Kelby, which secret here, I'm not a massive fan of his photography. Actually, I like, There is nothing wrong with his photos, but they are just not my kind. But his educational style and what he managed to build when it comes to education and how far he got, I will always respect that. And I have a massive admiration towards that. I have met him several times. So actually all my Scott Kelby's books are signed by him as well, which is kind of really cool. So actually there's not much more to say because Holly mentioned the idea is that basically it goes through all the different features and functionalities of iPhone, and it talks about the different techniques when it comes to mobile photography. So definitely, if you into your mobile photography and you want to take it to another level, I would suggest a book like this.
I think I'm going to have to put that on my Christmas list for Santa.
You should.
Because after all these years of using an iPhone, I'm sure there's a lot of things I still don't know about it. Great. Okay. You want to hear what my next book is?
Totally. Yeah. Tell us, what's your second book?
Okay. It's the Time Magazine 100 Photographs, the most influential images of time.
That's amazing.
So it's really a history book of sorts. I think it's good to know about the history of photography. And I have to admit, I still don't know a lot about it. I don't really know a lot of who the famous photographers are. So I think this is a good book to look through, to just see all these images. Like there's one of Gandhi and the Spinning Wheel by Margaret Bourke White in 1946. And Betty Grable, taken by Frank Pooni in 1943. So pictures like that, just old pictures that have some meaning and obviously some value in the world. So if they're the most influential images of all time, they're probably worth looking at and seeing what you can learn, I guess, from the pictures that these pioneers of photography have taken. What do you think about that?
That's great. That's a cool book. I really like that. I like this type of books. I quite often buy, what is it called? Coffee table book from certain photographers. So if I have a photographer I like and I follow and I like their work, I try to see if they have a coffee table book because I generally get them and then I go through it and try to understand what is it that appealed to me from it, or the lighting, the composition, or maybe the thinking behind. Unfortunately, lots of these books don't really have much text in them. Like I would like a book where there is a photo and maybe there's a thought of the photographer about why he captured it like this or when or how. So that's my one little pick on these photography books, but I just like you love to get inspired by others. And I think that is a way to build up your photography as well. You know, you get inspired by many different people and that creates your own personality as an artist or as a photographer. So great idea. Very, very good. Well, I will build up on that actually with my next book, talking about history. I have a book which is called The Definite Visual History of Photography by Tom Ang. Now, it's a little bit like an encyclopedia, and it goes all the way from when the photography was very much at its beginning, when we still had painters painting portraits, and the photography was very, very early, all the way to modern times. Now, again, I'm not the type who goes through it from start to the end. I just like to pick up different parts, things that interest me. And one of the stories from this book I keep repeating over and over because I'm fascinated by it is at the beginning when the first inventor of photography was preparing the first camera, there was actually a group of very influential painters, like famous names, who got together and put money together and they offered to pay him if he stopped the development of the camera because they were worried that the camera will replace their work, because that will be able to capture portraits. And until now, it was them who was capturing the portraits and they were making money out of it. Of course, he refused and continued with the development, but that's a whole different story. That I think that the idea of this, not dying genre, but basically this art being so worried about the next step to the point when they basically thought that maybe they can just shut it by paying somebody off is incredible. Like, I mean, it's a little bit like with the AI now, isn't it? That there are people who are just so scared about it and so upset that they just kind of shouting all around and trying to stop it, where I think you just have to find a way to live next to it and continue with the art the way you want to do it. So I think sometimes it's very important to learn from the past and history. And this book, The Visual History of Photography, is definitely one of those that can help you with it, because it seems that not just with photography, but with things like fashion and movies and music, it just goes in circles. You know, it never really, we keep coming back to these things. Like sometimes when you walk out and you see some fashion trends, And then you look at your parents' pictures, you kind of thinking, well, they all wore this already in past, Or, for example, in this part of England where I live, secondhand shops with the retro clothing from that era, like 70s, 80s, are now the most popular shops when it comes to fashion, It's amazing. And I think with photography, it's a similar thing. When the digital cameras arrived and they started to be popular, people couldn't look at the vintage photos anymore and it's terrible. And, thanks God, we can create these super sharp images without any noise and the perfect photos. And now we're kind of going back to that again, to these vintage photos, and we're trying to learn from it and restore them or maybe even recreate the look. So I really like that. And this book helped me to understand that a little bit more. What do you think?
Mm-hmm. So what goes around comes around. Well, I hope that these hairstyles don't make a comeback, because I had the worst hair. If the clothes come back, so be it, but not the hair. Okay.
It's a great one, Holly. Do you have a picture?
Oh, I can send you one. Yeah.
Great. Looking forward to that.
Horrible.
So what's next? What's your next book?
All right. My next book is called Creative Visualization for Photographers: Composition, Exposure, Lighting, Learning, Experimenting, Setting Goals, Motivation, and More, by a photographer, Rick Salmon. Have you heard of him?
Definitely. I think he wrote many books, actually.
Yep. He's in the New York area. I went to one of his conferences that he did in North Jersey many years ago at the beginning of my photography journey. And that was kind of my first little conference that I went to. And I learned a lot from him there. And so, as I always like to support the arts, I had bought his book at the conference. So I've read through that. Again, we're going back kind of many years now, but it's a book that I have in my little library here. And so I think that's a good one. But you're right, he does have a bunch more. So maybe I should, for the holidays, be looking at what else he has.
Amazing.
So I think that's a good one.
Great, definitely. Okay, well, on that note, if my count is right, I think we went through the first 5 books. Is that right?
Yes, and even though my math is bad, yes, I counted 5.
Okay, we are a great couple when it comes to math.
Woo!
All right, folks, we're going to take a break for a minute. We're going to run through the ads, and then we will be back for 5 more books. So don't go anywhere.
If you're listening to the LumiCast podcast, then we share something in common. We love editing photos, and we love Luminar. It's almost breathtaking what this amazing tech can do for you. On our website, you'll find countless different things to help you be more creative than you ever thought imaginable. From our photo manipulation masterclass to our power bundle with 986 elements, our essential preset bundle, editing software and extensions to our tutorials. Harness the power at the website at www.cleverphotographer.com/Luminar. Again, that's cleverphotographer.com/Luminar. Now, back to LumiCast.
And we are back for the second part of our today's podcast, where we're talking about photography books. Photography books. We've seen some great ones so far, but it's time to continue, and it's my turn. Okay. At the beginning, I talked about the book from Scott Kelby, and now it's time to talk about another book from him, which is called Crush the Composition. Now, that's a little bit different style. Holly mentioned earlier that Scott Kelby is recognized as an educator for Adobe products, although he also does On1 now and other software, but it's more about editing, where actually this book is amazing. It kind of had a really cool format. It's almost a square, and it's full of about 278 pages of composition ideas. Now, composition, I think, and storytelling is one of the most important part of photography. I actually had a conversation with someone the other day. We were talking about the, triangle of photography: camera gear, photography skills, and composition. And which one is more important? And we actually ended up saying that the composition is the most important thing, because we all seen beginner who had a crap camera, had no clue how to set it up, and ended up with incredible photo because they just liked the scene and it worked, where if the composition doesn't work, it doesn't matter how expensive camera you have, how much you know about the settings. If the composition and the story doesn't work, I think it's really difficult to make up something out of it. So anyway, coming back to it, Crash the Composition is a great book which will help you to get inspiration on how to compose your photos and ultimately make them beautiful. And I really recommend everyone getting it because it's not only landscape photography, it's portrait photography, all sorts of photography ideas there. And I think it's definitely worth it. What do you think?
Sounds good. So you can get inspired by this book and give you said that about 280 ideas for different compositions. Sounds excellent, because sometimes we do get in a rut, right?
Definitely.
Or especially for beginners too.
That is much more there than, definitely. Not just for beginners. I think every one of us from time to time should, again, refresh the different ways photos can be captured. Otherwise, we just keep doing the rule of thirds over and over again, What's next? Holly, what do you have?
All right. My next book is The Photographer's Guide to Posing, Techniques to Flatter Everyone by Lindsay Adler. It's a Rocky Nook book by Lindsay Adler. So I had bought this book maybe 4 years ago because I don't do portraits, but I have beautiful kids to take pictures of. And I've always thought about, could I do portraits, earn some money on the side and, take pictures of families and stuff. So buying this book was kind of, part of my problem with why I don't do portraits is because I'm a little nervous around people. And I feel like a spaz as far as how do you actually pose them and tell them, turn this way, turn that way, and stuff like that. So I got this book hoping that I would master those skills and ease my fears. I did read this, I remember, over the course of a couple of days because I sat in a beach chair with my hat and sunglasses and just immersed myself in it. I still don't feel like I know how to pose people. And I still feel awkward when I take pictures of even my own kids, like trying to set everybody up. But I at least have the knowledge. And if you don't do it, it's not something you do often. You do forget. And I also kind of read it as getting tips for myself. If I'm taking a picture of myself or I'm in a group shot, how should I be posing so that I don't look stupid and overweight? Can I turn sideways and, stick my neck out a little and stuff, like put your hand on your hip so that I look better? So for those reasons, that's why I got that book. But I'm glad I have it. I'm sure I'll read it again. And so what do you think about that? I know she's a popular portrait photographer. A lot of people follow her.
Yes. She's very, very popular. And actually, I had a chance to meet her last year. I had a talk just before her on the One Click Live stage, I think it's called. I was talking about creativity in photography, and she was talking about colors in photography. And I have to say, for how she is ultimately very famous in a photography circle, and she was the main star of the show. So she was the big guest of the show. She was super humble, really sweet, really nice to talk to, very open to take a picture. So I really, really enjoy her company. So that was really great. And I think her portrait photos are beautiful. Yeah, good choice for a photographer. Now, talking about the posing, I 100% agree with you. And it's tricky, right? I mean, one thing is to know how to pose yourself. Another thing is to try to tell someone how to pose. That's also tricky. And I think some people naturally have it and some don't. And I think, talking to my friends who are portrait photographers, when they started, they all wish they would start it with experienced model, because apparently that makes the life much easier. Like lots of portrait photographers at the beginning, they get burned by so you have a beginner photographer and either no model or very beginner model who is really struggling for the poses, and apparently together it can create it's not that easy, where even if you're beginner and you're working with a model which is experienced, the results can be great. So good point. Great book. And I love the idea behind. So if you are in a photo, you know how to pose yourself. Great idea. Okay, my turn. Now I have a book which has a strange name, Photograph Like a Thief. And it's called Using Imitation and Inspiration to Create Great Images by Glyn Davis, I think. Anyway, we will put all the books in the description under the podcast. Photographing Like a Thief. Okay. That's what it's called. And the idea is that you get inspired by other photographers, basically. And it's coming back to something that I was talking earlier, and it's getting inspired by others. And of course that you can get a book, coffee table book, and you can go through the pictures and you can think, okay, I would like to do this like this and this like this. Or you can go as far as Glyn goes here and actually try to really recreate someone's work. So I think that's really a way to try and discover new techniques and discover new subjects and possibilities when it comes to photography. I really, really enjoy that.
Interesting. So you're allowed to be a thief. You're not really stealing. You're just using their pictures as inspiration.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you see a cool picture out there and you're like, okay, so maybe there's a setup of like a still life. You can get an idea from this book about some kind of fun setup you've never even thought of. And then it's sort of like a little workbook assignment or homework project to try to recreate what someone else has done.
Exactly. Well, he has about 20 projects inside. Again, trying to recreate work from different photographers to kind of show you how it can be done. And then obviously after that, it's up to you to go and try it again. But yeah, that's a really basic example is there is a very famous photographer in States who goes and photograph animals in zoos and safaris around States, like the different parks. And he photographed them and then he photoshopped them or edit them to make it look like they are in a wild. And basically in what he says is that by doing that, he's trying to free them in a way. So that's his idea. And one of these projects is basically to go to the zoo or to the park where there are animals, photograph them and try to do the same. So that's the idea.
Well, that sounds fun. So especially in the winter when people don't have anything to do, they could just do more project-based things like that.
Exactly. So yeah, definitely suggesting this one.
Interesting. All right. My fifth and final, is by Popular Photography. It's the Complete Photo Manual, 300 and more skills and tips for making great pictures. Okay. I got this book. If I look inside, I got this book in 2013. So that was really a little bit in the beginning of my journey. I started in about 2011, really learning about photography. So what's fun about this book is that, as you say, it's just got little snippets. So it's literally numbered 1 through like 300 something. So number 1, just get familiar with cameras. Number 12, understanding lighting angles, taking a leap in the dark, stuff like that. Consider the realm of infrared lighting, shooting with film, and just different little snippets. So I feel like it's an easy read and there's just a lot you can learn from it. Gear and setup, composing and shooting, processing, and stuff like that. So it's just like all these little ideas. So I think that's a good book, especially for beginners too.
And I think it highlights, as we said earlier, you can have a book which is perfectly fine to read from the start to the end. And then you have a book like this where you can just pick up what you feel like, right? So there is a space and reader for all types. Oh, well, it's time for my last book too, which means that's our 10th book. And with that, I wanted to quickly touch up on like a location guides for photographers. Now, surprisingly, there are not as popular, or there is not as many as I would think. I would think that every location around the world would have a guide which would tell you what to photograph, when and how. But actually, there is very little. There is lots of travel guides, and we talked about it in the past. I really like to use those, but I would like the travel guides to be focusing only on photography. So that's the first problem. Then the second problem is that I have to say that I bought lots of location guides for photographers, and I would say 70%, 80% of them are completely useless. It's 90 pages of a picture, address, and very short text saying what to do there. So as a photographer, that will tell you nothing. Quite often, these information are outdated, so you can turn up there and the place is not there anymore. Just the time of the year is not really suitable for the location, so it's not great. However, luckily for us, there is the 30% which create incredible guides. And one of them, which is my all-time favorite photographic guide, is called Photograph in Scotland. So it's a book which, if you would see the book, you would see that I have a number of, what is it called? Post-it notes to highlight different areas. It's written by Dougie Cunningham. And I have to say, regardless what's online and different guides online, if you're coming to Scotland and you're going to spend here more than a week, get this book because it's absolutely incredible. It really is like a travel guide going through different locations, but specifically for photographers. It tells you what time of the year you should photograph it, what time of the day, exactly how to get there, if it's a private road where you can park, what gear you should bring with you. And it has also a bunch of amazing pictures to give you inspiration on how to photograph it. So definitely this book is example of how I think all photo location and photographic guidebooks should be made. So well done, Dougie. This is really, really amazing. And as I used to live in Scotland, I really use this book like religiously, I would say. I really had it next to me in a car all the time. So yes, that's my favorite book.
Well, this has been a great conversation. I think the moral of the story is that everybody should have some kind of photography book library. And I think it's just a fun part of your decor of your photography office or photography room to have a bookcase with all of your books on the shelf. Let's keep books alive. Sure, you can use the Kindle and apps and stuff, but I think it's nice to sit by the fire and have a book to read now and then.
100%. I completely agree. The books definitely still have a place in our lives. I think it's really important to keep them there. We spend so much time looking at screens and mobile phones and all that it's really nice and refreshing to just be able to step away and have a good old book in hand. And I think if anything, the 10 books just showed you that there is just such a variety of different book styles and photography book styles that maybe if you're not into history of photography, maybe you into some inspiration when it comes to composition or phone photography or all that, and you can really find the book you're looking for and have a lots of fun with it. So I am, just like Holly, up for the books.
I think there's one book missing, though. You know what that is?
Oh, what is it?
A book about Luminar Neo.
I agree.
Maybe we should be writing one and we'll be world famous authors one day.
That's it. I'm looking forward to that. All right. Well, on that note, folks, thank you very much for joining us this week. Have a great weekend. And don't you worry, we will be back again next week on Friday.
Bye, everyone. Start reading books.
Bye-bye.
And that's a wrap. Now, there's only 3 things left to do. Subscribe to this podcast so you never miss a future episode. Visit our website at cleverphotographer.com/LumiCast to see what we have in store next. And stay creative and keep editing your photos no matter what anyone says.